Breakdowns in sanitation can be caused by facilities and equipment that are simply too difficult to keep clean. In this chapter, we will look at some guidelines for setting up safe and efficient commercial kitchens and choosing equipment that is appropriate. A well-designed kitchen will minimize the amount of time food spends in the temperature danger zone. It will also minimize the number of times it is handled. For example, storage areas are located near the receiving area to prevent delays in storing food, and prep tables should be located near refrigerators and freezers for the same reason. This well-designed floor plan is a great example. The arrows indicate the normal workflow. Feel free to pause the video and take a closer look. A good layout will minimize the risk of cross-contamination. Dirty equipment should not be placed where it can touch clean equipment or food. For example, it is not a good practice to place the soiled utensil table next to the salad preparation sink. Since hard-to-reach areas are less likely to be cleaned, a well-designed layout ensures that equipment is easily accessible for cleaning. If you are designing a commercial kitchen space, it pays to consult the local regulatory agency very early to have your plan approved. Before the establishment will be granted a permit to operate, the agency will likely need to complete an inspection to make sure all the requirements have been met. If the space can't pass the inspection, it can't open for business. Each area of the establishment has specific flooring needs. Cost and appearance are important, but health and safety are critical. Flooring needs to be strong, durable, and easy to clean. Floors that are highly porous should be avoided in the kitchen, since these create an ideal environment for microorganisms. It is especially important to have non-porous flooring in areas such as the walk-in refrigerator, food prep areas and storage areas, dishwashing areas, and in the restrooms. One option to consider is non-porous resilient flooring, such as rubber or vinyl tile. These are relatively inexpensive, easy to clean, and can handle the heavy traffic and resist grease. The downside is that they can be slippery and sometimes can be damaged by sharp objects. Many commercial kitchens, including our culinary lab here at Mid-Prairie, have hard surface flooring. We have polished concrete. Other examples would be ceramic tile, terrazzo or marble, and hardwood. These are non-absorbent, very durable, and an excellent choice for high soil areas like restrooms. The downside is that they are noisy and can be slippery when wet. We don't really have a slide that describes this, but non-slip surfaces should be used in high traffic areas. In fact, non-slip surfaces are best for the entire kitchen, since slips and falls are a potential hazard. Rubber mats are allowed for safety reasons in areas where standing water may occur, such as the dish room. Rubber mats need to be picked up and cleaned separately when scrubbing floors. On this side, coving is described. Coving is a curved, sealed edge between the floor and the wall that protects both the floor and the wall from water damage and makes cleaning easier. Hand washing stations need to be conveniently located so employees are encouraged to wash their hands often. These stations must be operable, stocked, and maintained. Hand washing stations must be supplied with a mixing valve or a combination faucet at the temperature of at least 100 degrees. Liquid soap is generally preferred, and some local codes require it. Most local codes require establishments to supply disposable paper towels for hand washing. Air dryers and continuous towels may be allowed, but both can be sources of contamination. Waste containers are required if disposable paper towels are provided, and hand washing stations must have a sign indicating that employees are required to wash hands before returning to work. The sign should reflect all languages used in the establishment. In any commercial kitchen, there must be at least one service sink or curved drain area to dispose of dirty water from mops. Any equipment purchased should be designed with sanitation in mind. Food contact surfaces must be safe and durable, corrosion resistant, and non-absorbent. They need to stand up to repeated cleaning, be easy to clean, and resist chipping, pitting, scratching, cracking, scoring, and decomposition. Only commercial food service equipment should be used in establishments because household equipment is not built to withstand such heavy use. It can be helpful to look for the NSF International Mark certifying that the equipment has been evaluated, tested, and certified as meeting international commercial food equipment standards. Dishwashing is a critically important task in the commercial kitchen, so selecting dishwashing machines is important. The water pipes to the dish machine should be as short as possible to prevent heat loss. It needs to be at least 6 inches off the floor so it's easy to clean underneath, and it's important to position the machine so the thermometer is readable. Any stationary equipment needs to either be 6 inches off the floor or seated to a masonry base. This is for the ease of cleaning. Stationary tabletop equipment should be either mounted on legs with a minimum of 4 inches between the equipment base and the tabletop, or it can be sealed to the countertop. Many types of kitchen equipment need to be cleaned in place. For example, a soft serve ice cream or frozen yogurt machine. These are designed to be cleaned and sanitized by running detergent, rinse, and sanitizing solutions through them for the required contact time. Once equipment has been installed, it needs to be maintained by qualified personnel. It should go without saying that safe water sources are absolutely critical. As we know from Chapter 2, water can carry pathogens, so safe water is vital to an establishment. Water that is safe to drink is known as potable water. This water can come from public water mains or private sources that are regularly tested. Establishments can also have closed potable water containers filled with potable water or properly maintained water transport vehicles. Only licensed plumbers should be installing and maintaining plumbing systems or installing grease traps. Improperly installed or poorly maintained plumbing allows for the mixing of potable water and non-potable water that has been implicated in foodborne illness outbreaks. Grease condensation on pipes is another common problem in plumbing systems. Grease traps are often installed to prevent grease buildup from creating a drainage problem and must be cleaned and maintained regularly. The greatest challenge to water safety comes from cross connections. A cross connection is dangerous because it allows the possibility of backflow. A running faucet located below the flood rim of a sink or a running hose in a mop bucket are examples of cross-contamination. Backflow occurs when the pressure in the potable water supply drops below the pressure of the contaminated supply and they mix. Backflow can be the result of pressure pushing contaminants back into the water supply. It can also happen when high water in one area of an operation creates a vacuum in the plumbing system that sucks contaminants back into the water supply. This is called back siphonage. A running faucet below the rim on a sink is an example of a cross connection that can lead to back siphonage. A running hose in a mop bucket is another example. There are two backflow prevention methods, a vacuum breaker and an air gap. A hose should never be attached to a faucet unless a backflow prevention device, such as a vacuum breaker, is attached. Threaded faucets and connections between two piping systems must have a vacuum breaker or other approved backflow prevention device. The only completely reliable method for preventing backflow is creating an air gap, which is an airspace used to separate a water supply outlet from any potential contaminated source. A properly designed sink typically has two air gaps to prevent backflow. There's one between the faucet and the flood rim, and the other between the drain pipe of the sink and the floor drain. There are other approved methods of preventing backflow. These include a double check valve and a reduced pressure zone backflow preventer. These can be seen on page 11.15 in your textbook. We talked in Chapter 10, when we were discussing crisis management, about sewage backup. Sewage and wastewater may be contaminated with pathogens, soils, and chemicals. It is absolutely essential to prevent them from contaminating food or food contact surfaces. The facility must have adequate drainage to handle all wastewater. If there is a backup of raw sewage, there will be an immediate closure, there must be a correction of the problem, and then a thorough cleaning. Any lighting in a food establishment needs to be designed to prevent the contamination of food. So it needs to have shadow-resistant light bulbs, protective covers, and shields for any heat lamps. Light intensity is measured in foot candles, and there are guidelines for the intensity of light for different tasks in the kitchen. 10-foot candles would be considered low intensity, 20 would be medium, and 50-foot candles would indicate high intensity light. For comparison, 10-foot candles is required for areas such as walk-in refrigerators, dry storage areas in the dining room. 20-foot candles is the requirement for places like the hand washing stations, the dishwashing area, buffets, utensil storage, restrooms, wait stations, and inside coolers. 50-foot candles is required for food prep areas. Ventilation helps maintain an establishment's indoor air quality by removing odors, gases, grease, dirt, and mold that could cause contamination. If a ventilation system is adequate, there is very little buildup of grease and condensation on walls and ceilings. We have to make sure that hoods, fans, guards, and ductwork do not drip on food or equipment, and all these hoods, filters, and grease extractors must be cleaned regularly. Mechanical ventilation systems must be used in areas where cooking, grilling, and frying take place. The best way to manage solid waste is to reduce, reuse, and recycle whenever possible. To test our knowledge, let's look at this hand washing station. Pause the video and try to write down what is missing. The hand washing station is missing the following: soap. Liquid, powdered, or bar soap is required. Liquid soap is generally preferred, and some local codes require it. Signage. The hand washing station must have a sign indicating that employees are required to wash their hands before returning to work. The sign should reflect all languages used in the establishment. A waste container. Waste containers are required if disposable paper towels are provided. A warm air hand dryer. While this isn't required, it's a good idea in the event that the paper towels run out. Most local codes require establishments to supply disposable paper towels in hand washing stations. Continuous cloth towel systems, if allowed, should be used only if the unit is working properly and the towel rolls are checked and cleaned regularly. Pause the video and test your knowledge with these questions. The answers are true, false, and true.